Okay, so the next project I will talk about is mainly focusing on user engagement, if not acceptance. We don't call it acceptance anymore, but yeah. So basically the mission of this project is to prepare the end users for future solutions, sorry, not future solutions, but for such CCAM solutions to be implemented in the, at the moment and also in the near future to be a part of our daily lives. It focuses on all modes, and it also focuses not only the driver, but it focuses on different users who are basically affected by the introduction of automated vehicles and different scenarios of different levels of automation, as well as different scenarios of introduction of automated vehicles are here evaluated. Here we have over 20 partners involved in this consortium. It is directed by the CERT, Hellenic Institute of Transport. It is coordinated, by CERT. And here we see again many partners from public authorities, cities, industry, and universities as well. This project is also planned for 36 months and just got extended for another 6 months. So in total, we would be, it is planned to be completed by the end of October 2022. It's still ongoing. The objectives of Drive to the Future can be clustered under 7 steps. First, here we are identifying the stakeholders who will be affected by automated vehicles, including their needs and challenges. Second is the modeling of the behavior of these users and forecasting the development of acceptance, taking into account different scenarios of introducing automation. After this, defining the optimal HMI. This is basically crucial in order to have a user-oriented migration path towards an environment, an automated environment. The next step is to develop the tools and certification schemes and etc. in order to provide the training for different kind of user categories as well as different types of mode of transportation. Next step, 5th step would be performing these pilots, testing the tools that are developed in different areas, different cities, addressing different use cases and situations. Next is to assess the impact of developed tools and schemes. And the last point is investigate the legal and ethical issues by comparing different scenarios of human-machine interaction. This is an overview of the pilot sites that are defined. You can see that they are for maritime, road, rail, as well as aviation. You can see the map on which countries and which cities these pilot projects will take place, which I will talk about here, the one R07 that would take place in Rome, Italy. But before, let's have a look at how the VR trainings took place. So here we see a VR training where the autopilot mode of the vehicle is activated, and it interacts with the user for certain functions such as decreasing speed, increasing speed, taking over, changing the lane, etc. The approach, the behavior of the user here is evaluated by using VR simulation. Can we go to the link on this video, please? Here's a video of how the user is actually seeing the interface. You can see the information changing on the screen at the bottom. This was the video that shows how this VR training took place from the user, the driver's point of view. The next example of the VR training is a scenario where the autopilot requests driver to take control, especially in safety critical situations. And in this one, it is tested how the driver is reacting towards situations like this, which are especially important as I said, in safety critical scenarios. The last VR training is done addressing autonomous shuttles. Here, the interaction of the passengers of the autonomous shuttles, where we don't have a driver and operator on board, is evaluated. Here, the user requests information regarding certain sudden events or regarding their destination. And again, how the users are approaching such technology, such HMI concepts are evaluated. The pilot that I would like to talk about in this project is the R07 pilot that took place in Rome, Italy. And in this pilot, the user group that were targeted is the Traffic Management Center. So here we want to evaluate how to assess the acceptance, how the people from the Traffic Management Center would approach to such technologies and concepts, because they also would need to control these solutions that are operating in their urban environment or interurban environment. The solutions was basically the solution that is tested here, the traffic light assistant, traffic light forecast that I talked about in the morning. You can see the urban traffic controller as well as urban traffic management system, Utopia and Omnia, already being implemented in Rome. And these are connected with the TLA service that is implemented in the city as well. On the right, you can see that this service can be either implemented by both communication technologies. We used an app for this use case, so the users are equipped with a special app. And first I want to show this, because here are again, two sub-cases. Speed advisory and time to green use cases are tested. This is the user interface of Omnia, the urban traffic management platform. And here you can see the road section. And this, regarding this, for this use case, we have developed a real-time dashboard to the Traffic Management Center where they can evaluate these services that are operating in their city. The traffic managers can visualize it on the map as well, as you can see, as a spatial visualization, and they also can access information such as daily availability, delays, accuracy, and also the information per traffic light controller as well. This real-time dashboard is basically introduced to the Traffic Management Center in Rome, and they used it, tested it, and they provided us also with the feedbacks. And as the next step of the project, as I said, this project is extended, so it's still going on. But as a next step, also recommendations for future solutions are developed from this project. Any questions?
Shall we do the questions after this? Because that's the last presentation of a project. And what I wanted to say is that Itır was talking about the previous project, and she was referring to virtual reality, VR. And what is very important with CCAM is that we test it on real traffic. So, because, you know, everything works in a lab where everything is controlled and so on. But because we are, as we said this morning, we're going to be experiencing mixed traffic for quite some years. Well, it depends who you ask. Some people say 10 years, some people say less. But it's very important that we test things in real traffic, in real life. So the 5G Mobix, it's a project on 5G for CCAM. And it's all based on the situation where you have a connected automated vehicle, and you find yourself crossing borders from Greece to Turkey, from Spain to Portugal. These are the two cross-border pilots or trials, let's say. So suddenly, you stop having the communication with a network, and it starts 2 minutes after or later, because it also depends on the legislation. And that's okay when you're driving, but when your car is driving for you, so when it's automated, this is very unsafe. So imagine yourself driving and suddenly somebody closes your eyes for 2 minutes, 2 entire minutes. That's a disaster. So that is a project that is working on understanding or finding the solution technology-wise and business case-wise, business model-wise. So let me give you some details. This is actually running as we speak. It's again funded by the European Union. It started in November 2018. It's going to finish in July 2022. It has 50 partners from 11 countries in Europe, and Turkey, as I said, is one of them. 10 non-EU funded partners from China and South Korea. And the objectives are 3: to carry out trials along the cross-border corridors to assess 5G capabilities for CCAM, to qualify the 5G infrastructure and evaluate the benefits of 5G within the CCAM context, and identify spectrum allocation gaps, contribute to standardization and 5G CEF preparation. So there are deployment scenarios and recommendations for this cross-border context, cost-benefit analysis and so on, because the question always remains, who is going to pay for this service? Is it the mobile network operator that is finishing in the borders, or the other one starting, or is it the region or the country, or is it the vehicle, the OEM providing the service? So basically, is it the infrastructure or the OEM? This is the main objective, as well as the technology. So, as I said, there are 2 cross-border corridors, Greece and Turkey and Portugal, Spain. 4 complementary European trial sites, you see them there, 2 in Asia, and then, you know, the networks are being considered, the architecture, how many vehicles there are, 24 in level 4 automated, and the use cases, you see them on the bottom: advanced driving, vehicles platooning, extended sensors, remote driving, vehicles QoS support. That is a very technical slide. I'm not going to go deep into it, but it's all about this massive broadband and ultra reliable, how do you call it, low latency. So these 2 slices, network slices, and the combination of these and how they work technology-wise. And this is a very good scheme showing you the architecture of the project. But what I wanted to show is something more general, which is coming from this project but applies to all. So when you have a proposal for a project, because part of this training is also to give you an idea on how to go for projects under EU funding or national funding, I think it's the same. You have to go for detailed KPIs, key indicators, performance indicators, and then define, integrate, and test and trial and simulation, as well as real traffic, evaluate and show the exploitation. So show how this project can continue and build for a real deployment. And what is very, very important is that you have the focus of the project, or the focus of everything you do in CCAM, involves the market, the stakeholders, and the persons and goods, so including society. As we were saying this morning, this user engagement and the added value that you can prove that CCAM services and products have when you are putting together the industry, the users, and the public authorities as well. Because it's not uncommon to be in a discussion, especially in Brussels, where those representing cities say, okay, that's a lot of money, why would we invest in that? What is the added value? And of course they're right. If you cannot show the added value, no city would invest on infrastructure that's able to host a CCAM service and system. So these are the partners. Again, it's business, automated driving, research and development, all the sectors together. You see the mobile network operators. Turkcell is there, of course, as well as Nokia and others. And all these stakeholders are working together to understand what is the win-win-win of this cross-border CCAM connectivity and deployment for the benefit of safety in mobility. So we have some Q&A for you, but let's ask first if you have any questions from the projects that we just shared with you. First of all, was this helpful? Yes?
Do you have some measurements against digital safety? Yes, road safety is very important, but how about digital safety? How can you use like this 5G things? Some hackers, for example, hackers can use your data or your personal information, or they may cause some crashes.
Yeah.
He can break your system.
No, you're right. You're right. Cybersecurity is always an important part of the CCAM project. It's one of the deliverables that all CCAM projects share, because of course, when you don't have control of your car, it's all about data. You need to have it safely passing from vehicle to vehicle, vehicle to infrastructure, and so on and so forth. Yeah, absolutely. Cybersecurity is very important. Yeah.
Other question. You said you are living in Netherlands, and as I know, there are some shared spaces in Netherlands. How do you think you can use this connected system in shared places?
When you're saying shared,
I mean,
it's
you know, there is no sign, no pathway on a road, and pedestrian and cars using the same space. Other means,
I know what you mean.
co-working spaces. You know?
I think I know what you mean, where you have, there was another name for it, where you don't have an infrastructure, on-site infrastructure, and for example, how the vehicles cross and the cyclists cross depends on how they move at the moment. Is it correct?
Yes, and it depends on the people and drivers, eye contact, or other things.
Yeah.
And how do you think, for example, automated vehicles is useful in these places? And as I know, Netherlands is one of the
pioneers. Yeah, yeah, indeed. But that is all about this infrastructure to vehicle, infrastructure to pedestrian. They are really pioneers in the Netherlands, and they are working on different services and products. Indeed, the shared spaces, as you call them, they are a place to understand how easy it is to communicate these warnings or this information equally to pedestrians and cars. And it is really, pioneering work. TNO, one of the partners of ERTICO and a partner in most of the projects that we presented is really working on that. So what the Netherlands also does, and again, with Copenhagen, is this integration of the different modes in one traffic management system or one mobility management system, which is very important. And we are going to talk about it after lunch, when we are seeing that it's not only the road, but it's all the modes that you have to kind of orchestrate, like Itır was saying, so that there is no collision, and that there is this orchestration that enhances the flow in the mobility without any issues. But indeed, the ideal, or the ideal, where we are progressing to is this minimal infrastructure as we know it, with the traffic lights and the signals and the VMSs on the streets, and the messages on what is happening around the user coming through a mobile device or an in-car device. That is exactly what we are working on, or towards to. Yeah.
Maybe I can just add one more thing. Maybe it's important to mention that when we talk about infrastructure, it doesn't necessarily have to be the traffic lights. We also, for example, have been studying a case where you would have a cyclist approaching a road, where they would both, the cyclist and the right turning vehicle, would both receive a green light to pass. So we were studying a situation, how the vehicle knows and how we can increase the safety of the cyclist, right? And they both receive the same light. So in this case, there are various ways to provide. You can also provide it with installing video cameras that are evaluating, analyzing the image, the video, and sending the information to the vehicle saying that pay attention, a cyclist is approaching, for example. So it doesn't necessarily have to be with traffic lights, but when we talk about infrastructure.
Other questions? So, yes.
This question might be a bit theoretical, but when we consider the investment needed to achieve CCAM, do you think it will pay itself in the future? Like, how many years do you think it will pay in terms of the load management or the saving due to fuel? Do you think it's financially viable, or do you think there should be some incentives given by the EU or governments to provide this safety for passengers or users?
Yeah, that's a perfect question. That's the catch-22, as we say. So it is indeed, everyone, I think I'm speaking on behalf of Itır as well, everyone who is working on CCAM and its deployment believe that it's worth it, and believe that it's going to pay back in safety, efficiency, accessibility, and so on and so forth. But what we are currently working on, and it's very important, is this business case. How much it's going to cost, and how soon the investment is going to pay back. And this applies to all sectors. So the mobility network operators that are involved in the 5G MOBICs, for example, are trying to find the business model. Is it going to pay back if they cooperate in this 2 minutes distance in the borders of Greece and Turkey, or it's not, and it's not worth it? At the same time, cities and regions that are discussing about digital infrastructure, digital twins, and so on, or infrastructure supporting and hosting the CCAM, are thinking, is it worth the investment? Because this is what we should solve, and then it's going to be easier. And that's exactly, I don't have the, I believe that it's worth it, totally worth it, and it's going to pay back. Now, how soon and how is the balance? This is what these projects are working on. As we said, it's the technology is one thing, but the organizational aspect is very important, because nobody goes into a cooperation unless there is a win for them. And usually it's human, companies logic. You cannot go into something where the investment pays back in 20 years. It's too long. On the other hand, the infrastructure, the physical infrastructure that cities build or deploy, they have a long lifespan. So you have to kind of balance the pace of technology development and the money invested already by a city or by a region in the current infrastructure. That is why we are discussing about legacy systems, as we call the systems that are already in place, and how they can be modified in the with the lowest cost in order to host this CCAM services and products. So what you pointed out is a discussion going on and a research going on, but no clear solution as of now, right now, because I cannot tell you, oh, it's going to pay back in 2 years. It's not. It's not. And it always depends on how the system is being built. Is it modular, which is what cities and regions actually go for now, because with the modules you can modify, add, and so on and so forth, or is it one piece and then it gets old and you have to replace the whole thing and it costs more and so on and so forth. Yeah. I don't know if you want to add something.
No,
I said everything. Okay. So we have a question here for you, actually. How could CCAM improve the mobility in your city, region, or country? And I'm aware that you are all from Ankara. So how do you see these examples that we had, that we presented, and the discussion that we're having, applying to your everyday life or to your city? Excuse me. Do you see these applicable? Or, because as I said, it shouldn't be pilots somewhere else and not touching your everyday life and your everyday needs. It should be really applicable in Ankara. For example, this morning we were in traffic at 9:10. It was incredible. And for sure, something more automated would make sense. But for us, for you too? Question mark. I guess some people are nodding. Okay. So what do we have? Yes, we have the wrap up.
Yeah, here I have one slide,
Oh, yeah.
basically.
Okay, do we have the Slido though?
Maybe after this? No.
Okay.
Oh, yes, I have the second slide. I'm sorry. Basically, what we talked about. I think it is important to mention that with the CCAM solutions, you are reducing the risk of human errors, such as a vehicle with high automation, as well as the infrastructure, connected infrastructure on the road. Connected and cooperative operation will not be nervous, drunk, or tired. It will enhance productivity, and in the long run, we know that it would also reduce less costs regarding insurances and fuel consumption. We also talked a lot about how travel times will be affected by these solutions. We also talked about emissions and social inclusion. These solutions are also addressing the users who cannot drive or don't want to drive. And overall, as my starting point was that we don't have unlimited space. So this is an important solution for us to optimize our space and to make most out of our existing infrastructure. And here I want to mention a program that we have, a Lighthouse program, which we learn, discuss, try and co-create together with cities and other companies as well, in order to understand such solutions. So if you would have technical questions or more specific questions, please feel free to contact either this or to me. And another slide, a question.
Wait, before we go that, but you can read it as well, I wanted to add something about the social inclusion. You see on most of the projects and the slides that we have been showing how CCAM ensures or supports accessibility, and how, as Itır said, some people cannot drive or don't want to drive, and that's going to be easier for them. But another point in the discussion of of accessibility on CCAM is these groups of users that are older, or not familiar with all this digital culture and so on and so forth. So I'm talking about usually older people, but not necessarily, not familiar is the best way to describe them. So we shouldn't be going for a system that we take it for granted that everyone can access. As we were saying this morning, training is needed for everyone to be able to access the CCAM systems and services, regardless of age. So what are the necessary steps for CCAM deployment? You can choose more than one. And connected infrastructure.
Coming first. It's good that public engagement is also quite high.
Well, it's all. It depends. I think it depends on the region and the city and the group of people. But all these steps are important. Legislation is very, very important because you have legislation that is actually hampering the development of CCAM, and this is being discussed in Europe as well. So you need the infrastructure, you need the vehicles, you need the data exchange, because imagine a system where you're not allowed to exchange data, or the companies that are collecting the data are not doing it easily. So you have no fuel, because of course data has been described as the new oil. And public engagement, as we said, because if nobody wants to use or enter a CCAM vehicle, there's no point in having them. Okay, great. So, connected infrastructure.
Going to first.
And public engagement.
The same question.
Okay, yes. So, that was the training for the first part of the day. I don't know if there's any more questions on the entire training, on what is CCAM, why is it important, on the projects that we mentioned as examples. If you need more information, of course, these are our emails. We're going to also be sharing the presentations. I think they're going to be accessible for you. Both Itır and I are here all day and for the next 3 days, and also available to answer your questions.